Welcome to my review of The Plane Effect. And don't forget, if you enjoy and want to see more of my reviews, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to be kept up with all the latest ones. And so let's dive into this weird and unusual puzzle game, I guess, with the gameplay. And so, as you can see, the game kind of looks pretty cool. Shadows, great use of colour, with that almost noir feel to it. There are 3 actual modes of the game, each kind of like giving you more and more hints as you go along. And this, I believe, can be mixed and matched as you actually play the game. Essentially, the story is, on your last day at the office, you must make your way back home to your family. Mainly, well, because you love them and because there's an otherworldly force coming, or something to that description. Now, the game does start kind of simple: walk, jump, pick up or interact, and there's even a run button, and yes, you can die. And at the beginning, it kind of like tells a very simple, everything's normal and slightly futuristic story. And trust me, when it starts going weird, it blooming well starts going weird. And I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler-free as I can, just not to give everything away. But suffice to say, whereas the beginning of the game will see you going to offices, subway, trains and a city, the rest of the game, or a fair amount of it, will be taking you to other places. Not quite sure whether that laugh is warranted, but I'll keep it in. So, the gameplay is kind of like a puzzle game, and it's got plenty of difficult puzzles, as well as some that are kind of easy, some that are logic, and some you kind of like have to think the way the devs did. And there's definitely an element of trial and error here as well, especially if you pick the mode where you'll basically get no hints. I would also say that there are some points that I missed little key things because they were, well, very little. And this kind of like felt a bit odd because it took up time and I had to go and revisit little areas where I've been before just because I've missed this little thing that might have been on the floor or something. But as a whole, I found the actual puzzling side to it quite interesting, especially the way they've done some of them. And I did get a good satisfaction out of completing certain ones that took me a bit extra time because I had to fathom out what to do. Some of the areas were kind of spooky at times and some unnerving. I think they did really well with this sort of feel to the game. It's just a little bit of a shame that some bits were, it wasn't really logic. It was kind of like a pattern to certain things and experimenting. And in these bits, it kind of spoilt it a little bit because it just never made any sense. And you never got that sense of achievement of truly, doing it yourself. Another maybe little gripe that I had was the preciseness of the jumping. Sometimes you would do something and it just didn't feel as precise. And also when clicking on buttons, there was definitely a bit of that, I've clicked here, and it pushes your character to the actual area that it actually wants you to be. And it kind of takes you out of the feeling of the game somewhat and makes the game kind of almost feel like there's a frame rate issue here and there. I felt the overall sound of the game was okay. It definitely added to the atmosphere, and this definitely needs things like that to go along with the actual look of the game and the feel of the game to kind of heighten it all up and bring it all to the same level. The good, well, when you actually get those puzzles and they're the ones that you really have to think about and you achieve them, then you get a really good sense of accomplishment from them. I did like the feel and look of the game, really, really atmospheric. I felt it really sort of added something to the gameplay. And as for the bad, I think definitely the controls could be doing with a bit of a tweak, and also the places that you click on, like I said before, kind of moving you to that area where it wants you, kind of just felt a bit weird. And whilst the majority of the puzzles I felt were good, there were those ones that, it really did feel like you had to think the way the devs think, otherwise you wouldn't have got them. And definitely for me took a little bit of trial and error and just trying things out instead of logically coming to a actual conclusion on them. And as for that all-important score, which is taken from my own personal experience of the game, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. This game did so many things correctly, but it also did a few things that kind of marred my experience. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my time with the game, but I'm just questioning myself of whether I would have actually bought the game myself. But it did entertain in the most part. And for this reason, my alternative for the plane effect is going to be the plane effect, but the demo. Now there is a demo for this, as I just mentioned, and I think it's probably worth playing before you go and pick the game up. I can definitely see some people thinking, wow, this is great, I want more, and others that may be on the fence that needs to actually play it before they decide. And what a great idea of the devs to actually put a demo on there. So go ahead and play the demo, come back, let us know what you think down in the comments about, well, the demo or the actual game. Be great. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe buttons to keep yourself more up to date with all my latest content, especially if you've enjoyed this review. And if you want to take the conversation a little bit further, come to our community Discord, come along, we can discuss any of my reviews or any of my other content if you wish, because life is better when we switch together.